Yeah, Jeff, I can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you, sir. And welcome. Good morning. We're pleased to have with us today, joining us live from Baghdad, Major General Peter Gersten. He is the CJTF Operation Inherent Resolve Deputy Commander for Operations and Intelligence. General, we'll turn it over to you for any opening comments you may have, and then we'll call questions on this end for you.
Sounds good, Jeff. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come in today. I know it's early morning there and it's the afternoon here, so we're just trying to get through some computer issues. I'll apologize up front if we drop ourselves out. We're just working through those issues at this time. But I'd like to start off with, as Jeff said, I'm Major General Peter Gersten. I'm the Deputy Commander for CJTF OIR. In that capacity, I work directly for Lieutenant General Sean McFarland and primarily responsible for planning, coordinating, synchronizing, and executing all combat operations across Iraq and Syria. As you're aware, we continue to engage DASH across the entire spectrum of combat operations, both geographically and functionally. In addition, we're enabling our partners in the region to build stability and security sector reform and stability for the future. I don't have to remind you that this is a tough fight that not only affects us out here, but it affects many of you at home. This enemy is a persistent cancer that has to be stopped. If left unchecked, it'll continue to metastasize and significantly infect the world. Please know that the men and women of the coalition are fighting every day to destroy this cancer, but we also must understand that this fight requires both patience and time. With that, please allow me to highlight some significant current issues that are currently going on. First, there's been much discussion about the approval process for strike operations in a combat zone. Rest assured, as the general officer responsible for synchronizing all combat operations in this theater, I can assure you that we do everything possible to mitigate the loss of civilian life and minimize collateral damage as we engage this enemy. Additionally, in the last week, President and Secretary of Defense have announced the increase of up to 450 troops to support the operations in the theater. These men and women from the U.S.-led anti-ISIS coalition will advise and assist Iraqi and Syrian counter-Daesh ground forces to continue to fracture and degrade the enemy. You may also be aware of the recent addition of the B-52 Stratofortress to the overall coalition air campaign. I'd like everyone in this forum to know that my father once flew B-52s in the late 1960s and early 1970s. I'd also like everyone to understand and to clean up any misperceptions about what the B-52 is capable of, that this is not my father's B-52. It's a highly upgraded B-52, extraordinary platform that strikes with the same accuracy and precision that every other coalition asset has struck in the recent past. Finally, in the very high end of the spectrum of combat operations, you may also be aware that we've now begun to use our exquisite cyber capabilities in this fight against Daesh. This outstanding capability is again just another precision arrow in our arsenal aimed directly at the heart of the Daesh enemy in an effort to eradicate this vile cancer. Now I know that it's a bit of a tradition inside the Pentagon that the AP gets the first question, so I appreciate once again you giving me the opportunity to come in today and talk to you all. I'll stand by for your first question.
Lita Baldor, Lita, go ahead.
Good morning, General. Thanks a lot for doing this. A couple questions on the recent troop announcements. Can you tell us whether or not some of these details have been worked out, including how big of an aircraft footprint do you think will accompany these special operations forces when they go into Syria? I assume with the medical teams and logistics, we're talking about at least some aircraft. Can you give us at least some type of idea who that is and how many there are? And one quick thing on Iraq, the HIMARS that's going in, will that also be used at the brigade and battalion level, and will it move forward toward, as the Iraqi forces move forward towards Mosul, will it move also? Thank you.
Yeah. Just my guy. All right. Jeff, it's General Gersten. How do you read? Jeff, I can see you now.
You're good.
I can see you, but I can't hear you, Jeff.
Okay. He can see us but can't hear us.
Okay. Okay. Jeff, can you hear me?
Hear you, yes. But he can't hear us.
Jeff, I cannot hear you if you can hear me.
I can hear you, but you can't hear me. Okay. Sorry, folks. Hey, for the folks at Divids in Atlanta, check your mute buttons.
Jeff.
Gotcha. Can you hear us? Hello? 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1.
Jeff, I can hear you. How do you hear me?
We hear you fine, but we can't hear you, or you can't hear us. Sorry.
I can hear you now, but I'm guessing we're probably buying ourselves about a 5-second delay. Is that correct?
That's probably right. We can hear you fine. If you can hear us, and I think we were talking to Lita Baldor still about what were we talking about?
I don't know if you heard my question at all.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, no.
Lita, I heard your question loud and clear, so I appreciate that. Can you? It was got to do with the number of increase in aircraft to support the presidential bump up of troops on the ground. I will tell you that we run daily. The Combined Air Operations Center runs about 1,000 sorties a day. The sorties required to support, sustain, enable this team are going to be merely a handful of those 1,000 sorties. We are obviously going to do everything we can to be able to support them, and I don't think it's going to be a major problem. The second question you asked me was the brigade level HIMARS as it goes into Turkey. I would tell you that that is a recent development that we have been working on, and we are looking at how it's going to be installed, and we're working very closely with our strong partners in Turkey to find out exactly how it's going to operate. Now, I'll tell you, the HIMARS is a fantastic system, and it will be able to range exactly where we need it to range, and that'll work in combination with our air assets, and they'll work very closely to achieve their effects.
Turkey you're talking about, is that in addition to the one that is in or plans to be in Iraq? And will the one in Iraq also be moving toward Mosul as the Iraqi troops move?
That's a great question. Those are two separate HIMARS systems. One is going to be used in Turkey in support of our operations in Syria, and the second one will be used in support of our operations in Iraq.
And will it move forward with the brigades and or battalions, with the Iraqi brigades and battalions as they move to Mosul?
Absolutely. I would tell you that in the more of an OPSEC vein, the HIMARS will be exactly where we need it to be at any given time. It's a mobile system. It's very agile, and we'll put it where we need, and probably at the liberty of watching the OPSEC of the briefing. We'll stay with that.
All right, next Barbara Starr from CNN.
General, thank you for doing this. Can we come back to the issue of civilian casualties for a minute? And while we, of course, understand the military's point that it's always concerned about civilian casualties, can I ask you to be more specific on a couple of things? as you begin to contemplate additional operations in and around Mosul, in and around Raqqa, where you have significant civilian population, what concerns does this raise for trying to execute an air campaign and still keep civilian casualties at a minimum? How do you deal with that problem? Does it change your calculations in any way? Could you describe some of that?
Thanks, Barb. I would tell you, we have to measure every weapon and every effect we bring to the battle space. It doesn't change the way we operate. We've always had a very precise system that is highly vetted and highly precise as it engages the enemy anywhere it presents itself. The enemy obviously is much easier to engage when it openly presents itself, but you bring up a good point. As we get into the highly congested environment of an urban operation, much like we had urban operations in Ramadi, and we're starting urban operations in Fallujah, it's a great concern to us. But we make every effort. Now, if you allow me, I'll give you an example. We recently were engaging with some of the bulk cash storage facilities in order to go after the counter finance. And we saw in this particular facility, which also had a finance emir in the southern section of Mosul. He was the major distributor of funds to Daesh fighters. We watched him come and go from his house. We watched his supplies. We watched the security that was involved in it. We also watched occasionally a female and her children in and out of the quarters. We actually saturated that with intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance assets, RPAs, to get a pattern of life study. And then we formulated a plan to ensure that that particular women and children and the non-combatants were clear of that objective. We went as far as actually to put a Hellfire on top of the building and airburst it so it wouldn't destroy the building, simply knock on the roof to ensure that she and the children were out of the building. And then we proceeded with our operation. That's an example of exactly how we do this. But we have to understand that Daesh is into the fabric of the people. They are using the civilian force as human shields, and we will fight and do everything possible we can to keep those civilian casualties to an absolute minimum.
Follow up on 2 points very quickly. When you described this airburst over the building, did you see then the women and children with her? Did you observe them run out of the building? This is a technique I think that the Israelis have used in the past.
That's very good, Barbara. That's exactly where we took the technique and procedure from. It is called a knock operation. It is a valid operation, and we absolutely did see the woman and child leave. And interestingly enough, the men that were in that building, multiple men, literally trampled over her to get out of that building. We watched her and observed her leaving the building. And she cleared the building, and we began to process the strike. It's a difficult situation, I would tell you, in this particular event, because it ultimately ended up in a civilian casualty. So as much as we tried to do exactly what we wanted to do and minimize civilian casualties, post-weapons release, she actually ran back into the building. We watched. It's very difficult for us to watch. And it was within the final seconds of the actual impact. The good news, I guess, of all of that was that we actually brought forth the CivCas event for review. We reviewed it with a very thorough process. We looked at everything we could do to have mitigated that fact, and it was an unfortunality. But this is a very congested environment we fight in, and we do everything we possibly can.
Quick, I don't want to take too much time. You mentioned cyber. Can you describe any of the cyber operations that are proving to be successful against ISIS?
As we begin to yield the cyber effects on the battle space, as you know, those are cloaked in the highest of secrecy as we proceed forward. Once again, I appreciate the question, Barbara, but please appreciate the use of cyber is a very sensitive capability. We want to protect it for future operations. I can tell you it is highly coordinated. It has been very effective, and Daesh will be definitely in the crosshairs as we bring that capability to bear against them.
Next to Kasim from the Anadolu News Agency in Turkey.
General, thanks for doing this. I will have two questions, one on the HIMARS to Turkey and then another on Syria. Could you just detail a little bit about these HIMARS? How many of them will be provided? Where will they be stationed? And who will operate them, Americans or Turks?
Qasim, appreciate the question. We will be bringing a system into Turkey with the coordination of the Turkish government, our great partners. I will keep the operational security of its location, how many, and how we're going to use them to a classified level. So rest assured that our strong partners in Turkey against this fight against Daesh are absolutely fully involved in the operation as it goes forward.
There is also a discussion in Turkey that given the rockets flying into the Turkish cities, security zones on the northern border of northern parts of Syria may also help preventing these kinds of incidents. Based on your military experience, do you think that security zones on the northern Syria can prevent these rockets flying into a NATO border?
You know, I believe that as we go after Daesh, we will do everything we possibly can to destroy their capability to take any innocent life. Wherever they find themselves, if they're shooting rockets, artilleries, VBIDs, we'll take them down. So rest assured that we'll take care of this.
The troops that will be deployed to Syria, to what extent these special operations will help the PYD forces fighting Daesh over there?
Qasim, these troops we're putting in will advise and assist and train Syrian Arab coalition, as they've done in the past, a very effective force to counter the Daesh.
Okay. Next to Joe Tabbitt.
General, this is Joe Tabbitt with Al-Hurra. To follow up on Qasim's question on the HIMARS, in addition to what the HIMARS will do to counter the rockets from ISIL, could you explain to us if this system will play a role in securing or in countering the ISIL in the Manbij area? And also, could you tell us if this system will play a role in the future operation in Raqqa?
Joe, let me clear up the HIMARS situation. The HIMARS is simply one of many systems that the coalition is bringing to fight this enemy. We have fighters, we have remotely piloted aircraft, we have cyber, and now we have HIMARS. We will bring everything to bear against this enemy wherever it presents himself.
Next to Carla Babb with Voice of America.
Hi, General. Thank you for doing this. I just wanted to follow up on the announcement made last week by Secretary of Defense Ash Carter in Baghdad. He had mentioned that there were going to be an additional 217 troops, but I haven't really seen a change in the number of troops on the ground, U.S. troops on the ground in Iraq. When do you guys plan on, I think I lost him. Oh, when do you guys plan on taking advantage of that additional number?
Carla, I will take advantage of that number as soon as they show up.
Have any idea when that's going to be?
Yeah, we're working through the process right now. Obviously, we're going to get the right people in the right time, working for their capabilities to ensure that when they come in, it's seamless to our operations. We have a highly paced operation going on. We want to make sure we put them in the right place at the right time with the right tools. I'm fully being briefed exactly as that plan develops. and we are ready to take and apply them to the fight as soon as they arrive.
Are you expecting this in the coming days or the coming weeks?
We all want to know that answer, including Dash. So I'm going to go ahead and hold off on telling you exactly where and when and how they're going to get here. Appreciate the question, though.
Next to Thomas Watkins with Agence France Presse.
Hello, General. Thanks for doing this. Just one little point of clarification. I'm not sure if you said it or not, but what was the date of the knock operation that you described? And then secondly, we were given the news last week that the number of civilian casualties had effectively doubled to about, I think it was 41. And the increase came or coincided with the decision to delegate authority down. So just looking at it, it would appear that lowering of the threshold has kind of coincided with this increase in civilian casualties. And how do you respond to the claim that, well, while the US has given a lot of credit for keeping tallies and investigating the allegations, there are some other groups that say there's up to 1,200 people have been killed by coalition ordnance, and the claim that only 41 have died is unbelievable. How do you respond to that?
Well, Tom, I respond to that I'm the commanding general in charge of all combat operations across the CJOA, and I actually investigate and see the investigation reports for all of our CivCas, both allegations, reports, both as vetted allegations and allegations that have not come to fruition. So as the Deputy Commander of Operations, I would tell you that I'm very acute to the CivCas allegations that are going on, both internally and externally. It is a transparent process that I have a high level of confidence in. We assure you that we investigate everyone that investigation or every accusation that comes to us. To your question about the doubling of numbers, what we have done in the past and what will change recently is we have, as we go through the investigation process, we have been releasing them in groups by months in a series of packages. You're going to see that change, and we'll now, as they come through, we'll begin to release them as they are investigated and brought forth for everyone to see, both the investigations that are seen as or as investigated as validated and those that are not. The comment that it's changed somehow due to the fact that there's been a lowering of authorities, I don't believe it has a direct correlation. I think what we're seeing is I've been in this fight now for approaching 1 year. It is a constantly changing environment. We are constantly adjusting the way we are engaging the enemy as we get better and better at taking the fight to the enemy. And what we're seeing is that the capabilities to have the responsibility at the lowest combat level has more fidelity to keeping civilians safe. Having the eyes of the commander watching the fight directly, have the responsibility to clear those fires is actually a safer operation, and we are learning that. And I'm actually in charge of the validating of those officers, those generals. And I have great trust in their ability to find and engage the targets with great precision. If there's allegations that as high as 12,000, I don't suspect that people put all sorts of propaganda out there on the net. I would ask them to bring forward their facts, and you clearly have access to our facts.
12,000. I think the number is 1,200. But still, it's a significant increase. And also, could you just give us the date on that? Is the knock operation, please?
Tom, I believe it was probably about 4 weeks ago. We can pull the exact date for you a little bit later. We have done a lot of bank strikes in the past. Our bulk storage and bulk cash facilities have been completely destroyed. Their ability to finance their war through oil refineries has been destroyed. Their ability to keep track of their taxes and to oppress their people has been destroyed. We are functionally taking down their ability across their counter governance, across their counter information, across their counter finance. And that's what you're seeing on the battle space right now. These effects are having significant strategic damage against the enemy.
Just one last follow-up. Could you give us an indication of overall about how many of these operations that you described you've carried out, the knock operations where you do this kind of airburst on top of a building first?
What we're doing, we have tested that operation and executed that operation one time. We're looking at other operations and opportunities, and what we have found out that we have not had to execute that in the recent past, but it is now one of our operation procedures that we'll employ when the situation presents itself.
Next to David Martin with CBS.
Still on this knock operation, is this the same operation which was listed in a press release last week as having produced one civilian casualty? Is this the operation for which video of an airstrike against a cash storage site in Mosul has been released? Was the money being stored in the house of this Emir of Finance? And what happened to the Emir of Finance? Was he killed by the strike?
David, we have run in the high teens bulk cash strikes. So you would have to look at the exact video I think you're referencing. I don't want to get different sets of bulk cash strikes on the table. This particular one with the Emir, we have not seen the Emir reemerge on the net as we continue to look for him and his capabilities. But the assessed value of that bulk cash facility was significant.
Can you put a number on it?
Probably somewhere between $150 million.
Being stored in his house.
Absolutely, being stored in his house. I would absolutely love to tell you the intelligence that we had on this facility and exactly where, exactly what room was exactly where the money was being stored.
Can I just follow up on that because we lost the sound for a minute? Sir, we lost the sound for a minute, so could I, so we have your sound. Can you go back on a couple of things? I think David asked you, was this in fact the strike listed in your press release that resulted in one civilian casualty? Can you go back over the point you knew what room the money was in and you hit that room, I take it? And third, since you have now adopted in one instance this technique that the Israelis have used in the past, can you tell us, did you get briefed by the Israelis on how to carry this out? Did the U.S. military sit down and discuss this technique with the Israelis, how to use it, how to employ it?
Barbara, to your first question, I was cut out, I believe, on the money. I said I wish I could share with you the intelligence that we had to the exact location of where that money was being stored, because if you watch the strike, where the weapon entered the facility was the exact location of where that money was being stored. Now, as to whether we are working with the Israelis on this or did they teach us this, what you're looking at is a highly skilled military force that has spent personally 25 years across the spectrum of warfare. I've watched warfare being operated across the entire region. We did not work with them. We've certainly watched and observed their procedure. As we formulated the way to get the civilians out of the house, this was brought forward from one of our experts as a possible. We built the technique, we employed the technique, we put leaflets down, knock-ops were achieved. It was actually a very highly fast-paced, precision event in order to mitigate civcas across the entire region. We do that.
General, just to close the loop on this one strike, whether or not that is the strike for which you released video, you clearly didn't release all the video which you've now described of the airburst, the people running out of the house, and then post-weapons release, the woman running back in. So I'd like to request from you that you start the process of releasing that video so that we have the visual proof of the story you've just told us.
David, that's fine with me. I'll have Steve Warren work with your folks to release the video.
Are we losing you? Okay, Courtney Cubey from NBC.
Hi, General. You actually just covered my questions, but I have just one other follow-up. You mentioned on cyber that your operations there are highly coordinated. What do you mean by that? Who are they coordinated with, or between, or with whom?
Courtney, they're coordinated with every responsibility for that target area. Responsibility for that target area. There are air forces. The stakeholder is present during the coordination process. I am the coordination and synchronization lead on those. I bring those targets I ensure that the staff synchronizes across the entire spectrum of the operation for air, ground, and cyber effects. Once the coordination package is built, I approve the strike, and we move forward from there. So I guess if you're asking who's the synchronization responsible entity, that's me.
I'm sorry to tell you this, but you cut out at the very top of what you just said. We heard the end, so I'm sorry to add, but can I ask you just one more time? I understand you're the synchronization lead or hub, but who are you coordinating with?
Sir, Courtney, we look at the target set and we look at the desired effect we want to yield on that target. We go to the intelligence community and go to the operations, and we basically see who actually has equity, look at all the stakeholders, bring them to the coordination and development operations board. They brief the package, and then we press forward.
Thank you.
Next to Thomas Gibbons-Neff, Washington Post.
Hi, sir. Thanks for doing this. Just want to go back to the HIMARS and just clear up the deployment of those systems. Just correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand that we have a HIMARS system in Jordan. Now there's going to be one in Turkey. We have at least one in Anbar province, and there will be another in Iraq. Am I understanding that correctly?
That's correct. Valley, and one is going to be in the Tigris River Valley.
Going back to the 250 special operations guys going into Syria, can you just give some reassurance on, as they move further west with the local forces, how they're going to be supported via medevac assets, how they'll, if someone's wounded, how those guys will stay within the golden hour if they're hurt?
Yeah, we absolutely, as we continue to prosecute the enemy in that region, we have a very exquisite, that it comes with a medical team, it comes with a logistics team. We have taken great pride in our capabilities to stay inside the golden hour. We'll build a bridge for that potential event. It's a very dangerous part of the world, and I can tell you, rest assured, that we will put every effort into giving those forces everything they need to operate safely in that region. And if something is a mishap or something happens, we will do everything we can to get them out of there in the best of our abilities.
Does that, sir, does that involve, building forward air refueling points or any kind of ad hoc landing zones into Syria, or are you going to keep all those assets out of Syria proper? I'm not trying to get into specifics, but.
Appreciate the Tom. Appreciate that you know the sensitivities of the specifics of that. We will build a logistics bridge, a support bridge for them, and a medical response bridge for them. And we'll do whatever it takes to keep our U.S. And coalition forces safe.
Just on that same topic, General, does that include medevac for the Syrian Arab coalition partners? Will the U.S. provide medevac and CASEVAC for the Syrians that you're working with there?
We're going to give, obviously, immediate help if there's a situation. But this force that will be built for the coalition and U.S. forces will be for the U.S. and coalition forces.
Okay, and next to Lucas.
General, have the Russians resumed bombing moderate Syrian opposition forces in Syria?
The Russians in the battle space have not affected my operations in a way that is in such a magnitude that it concerns me. We certainly watch their operations as they come into the theater from last year, and we watch as they left the theater right now. It's simply something we observe as far as how they're maneuvering in the battle space, but specifically to what they're targeting and where they're targeting it, we only see them. We don't actually coordinate in any way with them. So I didn't actually hear the question.
Have you seen the Russians resume bombing operations around the Aleppo area?
We have observed the Russians bombing in Aleppo, down to Palmyra, Tadmor, Dar Azar, Shadadi, the oil fields. We simply observe with their actions, and that's about as far as we work with the Russians at all. We don't have a relationship with them. We don't work with them, and we have seen them begin operations again in that region.
Finally, can you walk us through efforts to target the ISIS Emir? Can you walk us through the targeting efforts, your mission to kill or capture the ISIS Emir Baghdadi?
What I can talk to you about is that cancerous snake in every way we possibly can. We have brought forth not only the air power and ground power to do this, we've also brought forward the Expeditionary Task Force. And I would tell you, if I was a Daesh, I would be in complete fear that the ETF is now established and working in this region.
Goal of the coalition right now to kill Baghdadi?
I'm sorry, you were cut out there. I lost the first part of that question.
Is the coalition's top goal or top priority to kill Baghdadi?
The coalition's top goal is to degrade and destroy Daesh wherever we find them. Baghdadi is certainly part of that goal. We will certainly have an effort to go after the leadership across the entire spectrum of this cancer. He is only one of many. We realize that. But our job is to take the entire approach and degrade them to a point where they're completely incapacitated and keep our families back home safe from the tyranny that this enemy is yielding upon the world.
Quick follow-up from, before we go to Louis, from Carla Babb. Go ahead, Carla.
Hi, General. I just wanted to follow up because you said the Russians had been targeting Shadadi, and I know that the U.S. has also been striking around there, and coalition forces have been supporting fights in that area. So my question for you is, how are the Russians not affecting the U.S. operations if they're striking in the same areas?
Yeah, Carla, the comment of them striking Shaddadi was the holistic approach. Like I said, I've been here for a year. When they first arrived on the battle space, and we weren't anywhere near Shaddadi at that point, they were bombing in that region. As our forces moved forward, they had stopped bombing in that region and went further off towards the west and started working in there. They are bombing in and around the eastern side in the Dar es-Zar area. They are no longer in Shaddadi, and they have been, quite honestly, very respectful of our forces.
Okay, next, Louis Martinez from ABC.
Hi, General. Question about the strike on the Emir. You said that the dollar amount associated with that was $150 million. Now that you have about in the high teens number of strikes, you said, targeting cash facilities, what is the current estimate for how much money, ISIS money, has been destroyed?
We have all sorts of assessments, and intel community is looking at that. I've heard numbers anywhere between $300 to $800 million. The center of that, it's about $500 million. The answer is, if it's $1 that's going towards Daesh fighting, I want to go after it. We just don't know the denominator in the equation. So I'll go after every one of their capabilities, and spending the money to fight is exactly where I'm going to focus my efforts. And if it's a $1 bill on the street that they're using to build a weapon, I'm going to go after that $1.
If I could follow. Go ahead. If I could follow up on that, there was also Operation Tidal Wave 2, combined with the cash strikes. I mean, what kind of an impact are we talking about their money flow right now?
Louis, the Operation Tidal Wave 2 was one of our most synchronized, coordinated strikes in the war to date. It was the initiation of the entire intelligence community coming together, multi-agency, multi-coordination, highly sophisticated targeting procedures to finance and make money for the war. We followed their tidal wave series and further towards the source. The tidal wave strikes led us to their bank sources. Their bank sources have led us to their distribution sources, and their distribution sources has led us to their foreign fighters. It's exactly very significant capability. They're fractured to the degree of they no longer have the ability to freely move on the battle space and strike in a significant way. I firmly believe that as we continue to fight this cancer, we've got it in a position right now as we make and continue momentum across the battle space that is going to be detrimental to their future.
Okay, and next we'll go to Lori Lewis from Talk Radio News Service.
Thank you, General. I'm wondering if you can tell us, are there any contractors that are working with U.S. forces in Syria or that will be working with this new group of 250?
For this new U.S. service members, there are no contractors in that team.
For you, could you speak to the level of, to the number of IEDs that are in and around these ISIS strongholds? Military officials asked civilians not to return to Ramadi recently. And I know the State Department recently also allocated additional funds for removing some of these explosives, and I'm just trying to get a scope of this problem.
Yeah, the IED problem, Lori, is probably one of the most vast and complicated issues we face every single day. The Iraqi forces have paid dearly against these IEDs, both the vehicle-borne and the ground-planted IEDs. When the Iraqi forces went into Ramadi, there were literally belts, and I mean belts and ribbons of IEDs that they had to fight their way through. I give the Iraqi forces great credit the ability to get through those belts in what I would say is a very effective way. For the IEDs themselves, when I first arrived here, for example, the Baghdad downtown was suffering from approximately 30 to 35 IED explosions a month. Basically, they were getting an explosion in a market or a home or a mosque at about 1 per day. Over the year I've been here, we've now pushed out an outer security ring around Baghdad, where the number is now 12 to 15 IED explosions, and that explosions occur outside the center of the security platform that the Iraqi forces have basically built with the assistance of the coalition. That's a pretty amazing story. People are back to a semi-normal life as that security zone is built up, and we continue to beat back the enemy to make that security sector bigger and get life back to normal as possible in and around Iraq. And any place we find Daesh, we'll go after them.
Thanks to Otto Kreischer.
Good morning, General Otto Kreischer, Sea Power Magazine. You talked about the tidal wave 2 and the strikes on their dollar supply. We've heard rumors and stories about some of the ISIS Daesh people leaving or losing faith in things. Do you have any real evidence of the impact of your attack on their resources on the number of troops they have? Are people defecting, or are the inflow of foreign fighters cut down?
Absolutely, Otto. What we're seeing is through our intelligence capabilities, we're seeing the morale of the enemy beginning to deteriorate at a fairly increasing way. As we went further out the Euphrates River Valley, we saw Daesh trying to defect, coming into playing themselves as refugees, playing themselves dressed as women. That's the kind of cowardice we're dealing with. We have taken them and begin to find out overall how the morale of the troops are. We are seeing through other sources that Daesh cannot pay their foreign fighters. They're trading vehicles now as versus pay. Some fighters aren't being paid at all, is what we're seeing. We see them generically digging in and not fighting. They go into the fabric of society and wrap themselves around civilians because that's the kind of cancer they are. So we do have examples that are coming in every single day about the effects that we are achieving against this enemy.
Next to Kim Dozier with the Daily Beast.
So just a follow-up on that, General. Do you have a new estimate on the numbers of ISIS fighters you have taken off the battlefield since coalition efforts began? It's a question that we gave to the press secretary yesterday, and he was taking it for the record.
The answer is not enough.
Ballpark as to where it stood last you all did a tally?
I'm sorry, Kim, you were broken that time. I didn't hear you.
Is there a ballpark as to where it stands from the last time you did a tally?
Kim, I appreciate the questions, but the numbers getting to the actual question of Daesh's ability to lash out. We will strike them, we got them in a position right now that they cannot maneuver on the battle space in an effective way. We can throw numbers out there, but really the answer is, as long as Daesh continues to try to affect the free people of the world and to try to affect that cancer, the answer goes back to, as long as there's one, we'll continue to fight them.
Quick, okay, go ahead, Tom. Yeah.
General, it's Tom Bowman with NPR. I want to talk to you about the operation from Mosul. If you have any timeline for that, people are hoping by the end of this year to retake Mosul. And I wanted to ask you about comparing that operation to Ramadi. In Ramadi, U.S. airstrikes, we're told, were the bulk of the success in Ramadi, and also the Iraqi counter-terror forces leading the effort into the city. Is that the model for Mosul? Serious American airstrikes, destroying a lot of the city, and then counter-terror forces leading the charge? Or do you think there has to be a different model for Mosul? Basically, you're going to have to get into the city block by block fighting.
Thanks, Tom. Mosul is a different city. It's much larger. It's much more industrial in its nature. It's about 4 times the size of Ramadi. We used not just U.S. air power, it was coalition air power that the Iraqi forces used in assistance to take Ramadi. We are looking at a multifaceted approach as we look at the future of different types of forces in order to work in that congested environment. That's about all I want to say at this time, but it's going to be a different type of engagement.
And just a quick follow-up. When I was there in December with General Milley, the Iraqis were talking about the need to recruit a lot of Sunni tribal fighters up in the Mosul area. They use the estimate about 10,000. Can you just talk about that effort? How many, is that the estimate you think you'll need to do the Mosul operation?
Yeah, we're continuing to recruit as many of the Sunni tribal fighters at this time and get them trained up and ready to go. They are a good fighting force. I would tell you the Iraqis are, as they've continued to fight very well in the Euphrates River Valley, beyond Ramadi. They've recently taken hit and in a very effective way.
أشار الانتباه في مجمع السفارة على جميع موظفينا المقيمين في بغداد لمشروع بغداد التوجه 1 أنكس 1 ليتم نقلهم إلى خارج السفارة حالا.
Jeff, I apologize. Stand by. There's
مرة ثانية على
Everything okay there, we hope?
I think we're good. I think we're good. I think the question was, are we recruiting those numbers? We are certainly looking for those numbers. We're seeing a lot more volunteerism and from the Sunni tribes. We're going to integrate those fighting forces into our game plan. We're working with the Iraqis at this point for the final phases of the plan, and we will continue to help them get to the
All right. I promised what will be a very quick follow-up before we sign off here, General, from Lucas at Fox News.
General, in the last 6 months, have you seen the number of foreign fighters coming into Iraq?
It got cut off in the end. I think your question was, have we seen a decrease in foreign fighters coming into Iraq? Was that your question?
Yes, just if you could walk us through some of the numbers and the effects of this strike since you've been hitting cache and all these other sites.
Combat operations. When I first got here, we were seeing somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 foreign fighters entering the fight. Now that we've been fighting this enemy for a year, our estimates are down to around 200, and we're actually seeing an increase in now the desertion rates in these fighters. We're seeing a fracture in their morale. We're seeing their inability to pay. We're seeing the inability to fight. We're watching them try to leave, dash. In every single way, their morale is being broken. In every single way, their capability to wage war is broken. In every single way, we will continue to take this fight and eradicate this cancer.
Thank you, General. Was that 1,500 to 2,000 fighters entering Iraq per month?
That was originally the estimate we saw as high as 1,500. This is a year ago, Lucas. So when I got here a year ago, there was a pretty high number of foreign fighters coming in. That has drastically dropped off.
Is that per month? Now it's down to 200 per month?
That's correct. Those are the numbers we're working with.
That's Iraq only, or Iraq and Syria?
Entire Iraq and Syria. That's That's the entire Iraq and Syria. Those are the numbers we were tracking for Daesh entering the fight a year ago to date.
All right, and with that, General, we have used your time up. Thank you very much for your generosity with your time and for briefing us today. And we hope to see you again soon.
Yeah, Jeff, I appreciate your time for the guys, folks at the Pentagon. I appreciate you letting me talk with you this morning. I would once again tell you that this is a great opportunity to kind of clear up any. Hope you all have a great day.